I want to bring out your lives and my knowledge.
No.
Good afternoon. Welcome to our August 24th meeting of our Economic Growth and Development Committee meeting. Can I first of all get a motion to approve the minutes of our prior committee meeting? Supervisor Leggett, second vice supervisor Bramer. Any discussion of the minutes? All those in favor? Great. Why don't we maybe start with Sarah and Ethan, if you'd like to start, or we can.
Sure. We don't have any action items on our agenda today. We do have a few brief project updates. But first off, it'd be nice to recognize Wayne Lamoth after 42 years of successful planning in Warren County will be departing at the end of next week. He's really positioned the county and a lot of our communities to do well going forward, whether it be the first wilderness heritage corridor, a lot of the work he did to, make sure Sarah was in the position that she's in with a really robust GIS department.
Yeah.
We're still learning about all of Wayne's housing. I'm still learning about Wayne's historic housing programs that he did successfully lead in the county. And one of his parting shots is to try to secure funding for additional housing programs in the county. So, Wayne put us in a good spot. Learned a lot from Wayne over the past couple of years, and I think we'll all miss him. So I do believe he has a retirement party next week.
Thursday, right?
Thursday. Yeah.
Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Are you done with the discussion about Wayne?
Yeah. Go on with it.
Okay, well, I was gonna, if you were finished with that, so I just say,
Go on.
members of the committee next, on the 31st at 12 o'clock after, personnel and finance meeting, we're gonna have a short reception celebration for Wayne in the committee room. The cake, and would invite you all to attend, and I'll send out an invitation later, probably the first part of next week to remind you.
And I put it on here.
Awesome.
Thanks, so yeah, all right.
And Ethan, he left like
The way I
a
introduced
package, right? This is not gonna be like a Y2K moment for us, where he's gonna leave. Everyone's gonna be gone and we're like, we sit around drooling on ourselves.
I know where
We're figuring out.
We can get to Wayne.
I know where he is. So just a couple quick project updates. We had our first project advisory group meeting for the comprehensive plan yesterday. We've got a great group, great consultant team. We're going to be charting a course for the next, 20 years for the county. I'd really like to keep this group informed. We need a good conduit to our elected officials to make this policy document work. We're also going to be conducting a really robust public engagement process. Right now, we do have a project website that's live with information about the project, and there'll also be updates, meeting materials from the project advisory group, and then just draft deliverables as they come out. And then we will be heavily publicizing any public engagement that we do. My office is always open. My phone's always on. If anyone has any questions, ideas, concerns about the project, please let me know. Moving on from that, our multi-use trail modernization study. We had our first project advisory group meeting 2 weeks ago with Barton LaJudas. This is a multi-use trail connection from Empire State Trail to Lake George. Should be a fantastic opportunity. Our outdoor recreation plan scheduled first meeting for early September. And then more importantly, I was at the Restore Mother Nature Bond Act listening session up in Saranac Lake. I think it was 2 weeks ago. $4.2 million bond was voted on last year. The state is currently in the process of determining how to best spend this money. This is really going to focus on climate adaptation mitigation, outdoor recreation, environmental restoration, green infrastructure projects that will really, really benefit Warren County communities. In order to make everyone's job a little bit easier and leverage the work that we've already done, we're going through our capital improvement inventory. We're also going through the draft hazard mitigation plan. We're trying to align those two documents and then at the same time interpret the rules for Mother Nature Bond Act. And we're going to see where those two things come together. And what we'd like to do is position the county and all the communities so that we can quickly capture any money from this bond act. I mean, there hasn't been anything like this in our lifetimes. So we want to position ourselves well to capture that funding. So right now, Sarah and Amanda in our department, they're going through these existing plans and anticipate in the next few weeks that we're going to send out an email asking for confirmation of these projects or just greater detail on it. And hopefully when the grant funding is released, we'll be ready to either, do the applications ourselves or work with the regional board to get funding for our communities. And there's a few other projects ongoing. I won't get into the details, but we do have one exciting project personally interested in. I think Don Lehman is as well. We are working with Dean Moore, Jeff Ingley at the Fish Hatchery to do some, a capital plan, concept drawings for that to position ourselves for Northern Borders Regional Commission funding. And the Mother Nature Bond Act also has a significant amount of money earmarked for fish hatcheries. So we have this really wonderful county facility in the town of Warrensburg that we are work with the landscape architect to develop plans for. But we also have new staff coming on board start of November 1st from Wyoming. We had an opportunity to meet her about 2 weeks ago. She was in the office. She's from the area, has worked in county government for a number of years out in Wyoming. She seems great personality, great record of work. So really happy to have her coming on board the next couple of months. So it'll be nice to have a little more capacity. And then my parting comment is Adirondack Glens Falls Transportation Council has their 20-year plan out for public comment right now. I would encourage anyone, community member that has, transportation related issues, of focus in their communities, to take a look at the plan, make sure that the goals and the priorities align with what you're finding in your communities. And again, the transportation sector is a huge part of our climate impact. And I think we have been making some pretty good strides towards addressing that. So this is another good opportunity to sort of do climate related things without overtly saying this is a climate related action.
I personally think it's okay for us to overtly say this is for climate adaptation mitigation, but knowing that how important it is for our transportation sector to reduce fossil fuel emissions and thinking about the comprehensive plan and all that blah blah. I think since the last committee meeting there was the complete streets presentation, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about how that went, and do you think there's anything here that we can implement?
Yeah, that was a great opportunity. There's a number of familiar faces here that were there. Complete Streets Workshop basically was a great presentation from a professional transportation planner. Talk to community members about what we could do to make our transportation networks safer and more comfortable for not just motorists, but people walking, wheelchairs, transit, etc. There's an unprecedented amount of state and federal funding for these projects right now. Huge livability impacts for drawing skilled workers. We have an aging population. Increasing accessibility and mobility is huge. So there's a lot of opportunities right now. Adirondack Glens Falls Transportation Council was also present at that meeting. At the planning committee meeting a few weeks ago, we did do follow-up from the Complete Streets Workshop, and one of the first steps was to reconvene the pedestrian and cyclist advisory committee, so that could be a legitimate sort of branch of Adirondack Glens Falls Transportation Council when they make their policy and planning decisions. So I think that action item would be huge. We do have representation from various departments and supervisors at the Adirondack Glens Falls Transportation Council, and they program how our federal and state transportation dollars are channeled throughout the community. So that's millions and millions and millions of dollars over the years. And having their enthusiasm for the Complete Streets Workshop and reopening the bike and pedestrian group shows a commitment to sort of those concepts. So there will be a great opportunity for supervisors who are part of the AGFDC, and everyone is, voting members that can just sit on the meetings to, push these kind of projects forward. And there's also opportunities for, ongoing education. John Huggins from Glens Falls Hospital was here, I believe, 3 meetings ago, I think. But they also have, resources that they can bring to bear into communities to talk about how to do small complete streets project, large complete streets projects, but that's another resource that we can tap into as well.
Thanks. I always think of it as for biking. We've talked about that prior committee meetings, but it's a good reminder that it's for pedestrians, people, especially seniors who are trying to get around. I would really love to see the county adopt complete streets policy.
So that's kind of a weighted thing. So there's some misconceptions about what that means. What we learned at the Complete Streets workshop is that there's no one size fits all for complete streets. A lot of people think we adopt a policy of complete streets, we're gonna have to put in buffered bike lanes everywhere. With a bunch of, bike nuts wanting to, hijack our transportation spending. That's really not the case. There is a bit of a process that goes into creating a complete streets policy. And you'd have to look, from Warren County's perspective, it's like, look at how we currently design, improve, and maintain our roads, understand that, it's a largely rural context, look at what our capacity is, and then look at what our appetite is. And through that process of developing a complete streets policy, in which can take, full year or whatever, and then you say, all right, we're doing a new transportation project. What does make sense to incorporate into this, bridge project, culvert project, or whatever.
Right.
So it's a deliberative process. I mean, there's grant funding available to go develop that policy. Yeah.
Okay.
And
I
that's,
was
but it
thinking
takes
it was
that
more
time.
like, I know it's not a cookie cutter thing, like we don't adopt it and then we all of a sudden have bike lanes on every road and, accessible everything. But I thought it was more like when we adopted the green fleet policy that we just said, as we go through purchasing, we want to try to buy, greener vehicles. So you're saying though, it's a more in-depth process, deliberative process.
For it to
than
be
just
meaningful, yeah.
For me to say, can we adopt a complete streets policy and we'll put it together and then that goes to Hajos and he'll, the superintendent will start taking this into consideration. I mean, I know he already does kind of, but just to make it more of a,
Yeah, I think that's the thing. You could conceivably, a lot of
Consistent.
communities have done this. They passed a resolution that said we are going to take, all transportation modes into consideration.
yeah,
So they passed a resolution and say, okay, yes, we're going to do it. In reality, though, without consulting someone like your DPW or the local road managers about how this actually gets done, it's like, great, we have this resolution. But, making the connection between saying we want to do this and then this is what's practical and feasible. That's what the policy would do. So a resolution says we want to do this, a policy said this is how we actually get it done. And it takes time, energy, resources to have a meaningful policy. So
and you
I mean,
don't
there's
think
ways
that's
to do it.
worthwhile right now?
what's that?
I mean, are we baking that into the comprehensive plan or do you not think it's worthwhile to take that on right now?
I think it's something that's certainly worth taking on from a, community development perspective, tourism perspective, aging population. And really through that process, you figure out what can be done. So yeah, I think it's worthwhile to do. Can we do it right now? We're gonna have new staff in November. Grant funding becomes available at various points. So if that boils to the top, I mean, I think through the comprehensive planning process, we're gonna find out what our top priorities are and what we can be focusing our resources and energy on. So it could come out of that or sooner if that's what the board.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you, Ethan. Any questions? Liza, we workforce BOCES and resolution number 1.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, everybody. I have 2 resolution requests for you today. The first one is our new annual contract with BOCES for our GED class. Pretty similar to last year, but this year we'll be hosting our GED class in our Career Center, which will be good to have some more youth present. So that's the first resolution.
Supervisor Leggett, seconded by Supervisor Smith. Any discussion?
And costs are holding pretty steady. It's at what, 18,000?
Yeah, and it only went up a little bit because of fringe, so we pay for the instructor and then our staff teaches, complimentary career readiness stuff. It only went up a little bit because of that. We do still have a full GED class at 12 students and a waiting list. Even though some passed, we pull them in off the waiting list. We continue to see young people who maybe have lost their connection with their school and dropped out. And we blame COVID for a lot of this, but also social challenges. But all of our GED students are extremely smart and dedicated to this class, which is great.
Fantastic. Discussion, seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Pass. So
Thank
resolution
you.
number 2.
Thank you. The second one is our annual allocation of our primary funding, which is WIOA Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. The last page of your packet has that breakdown of what the costs are. This year's allocation for this program year, which is PY 23, because we're on a different program year than the county. We're at about $777,000, which is about 7% increase since last year. So we're grateful for that. This is the third year in our WIOA 3-year cycle. We could have some changes next year, but for now, we're in pretty good shape. And again, the funding goes to Saratoga County, our fiscal agent, and we do the cash orders through them. And I'm happy to answer any questions about our budget.
Get a motion to get it on the floor.
Motion to move it.
Supervisor Leggett, second by Supervisor Smith. Discussion.
One of the discussions was always on the WIOA administrative on that, and I forget what the discussions were about that. Is that all the funding for your operations, or something that if something else gets used, you don't get?
I'm not sure I understand your question,
Yeah.
Supervisor Leggett.
No, I'm pulling back from
Years
last
ago.
year's.
No, it's okay. Yeah, we have a smaller admin budget, but what we do is when we do our time distributions, for example, the summer was heavily spent on time with youth, right? So we do our time distributions for these 4 buckets. And so we just don't use the admin at one as much since it's a smaller bucket of money.
Can I be just,
Go ahead, sir.
the budget that we are approving is this.
In very small
The
print.
very last page, I'm sorry, it's small print. You should have it on email.
18,000, I was like, that can't be.
No, and then you have the breakdown on the resolution request for each amount for our 4 buckets: adult, dislocated workers, youth, and administrative.
Can you just tell me what page you're on, please?
Yep.
Oh, here, I got
You
it.
got it.
Very teeny tiny page.
This one's less teeny.
Yes, there you go. So the page before it has the breakdown on the resolution request form number 7 has the breakdown from the 4 buckets. What is good to know about our particular WIOA dollars is that we can move money between dislocated worker and adult. For example, every dislocated worker is an adult, right?
Okay.
But we can't move our youth money. So we do have a little bit of flexibility. We're also grateful that New York State Department of Labor now is allowing us to use more youth money for in-school youth. In the past, we had to use 75% of our youth dollars for out-of-school youth. So now it's 50-50, which gives us a lot more flexibility for meeting the needs of working with our school districts for career readiness programs with our current students that are in school.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr.
Absolutely.
Chairman. So this runs through June 30th.
Correct.
So I imagine the other one stopped on June 29th, 2023. What have you been doing for funding for the past few months?
Oh, we get a carryover. So we can carry over. It's never a problem. My fiscal manager is able to move stuff around. Thank you for being concerned about that. So we have to spend 80% of our budget, which every year we pretty much meet. This year, we were was the only year we didn't because we have other grant money, but we were given a waiver anyways from the state. So for Warren County, we spent about 67%, 70% instead of the 80%. of our tri-county area.
Thank you. Supervisor Garrity, did you have something or? No, okay. Yeah. Any further discussion? Seeing none, well, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carries. Any further updates, Liza?
Yes, I have a few updates. Thank you so much. First, I wanted to thank members of the board for coming to our summer youth employment program picnic, and the county administrator as well. We were very excited that a handful of our young people were given job offers beyond the summer. And that's really the goal. And then some of them were in their second or third year with us this summer, and they'll be coming back too. So it was another very successful summer youth employment program. And all the feedback we've received from HR, IT, all of these other county departments has been really positive. So we're excited about that. We do want to emphasize that we must continue to focus on youth in our community. So we're still working very closely with probation department and Big Brothers Big Sisters for the Y Reconnects grant that the probation department received. We're continuing with that. Basically, young people who want a mentorship at a work site. We're scheduling them up to 6 hours a week for 6 weeks in the fall, and then we'll have another cohort in the spring. And it's not just kids on probation. It could be a kid referred from our GED class or Big Brothers Big Sisters. We have found that a very small investment goes a long way with young people who maybe are having some challenges, but then let's say they're interested in cars, and we get them placed at a car dealership with a worksite mentor. Huge turnaround in their behaviors and positive relationships and connections with businesses. So even when that grant expires with probation, our goal is to still continue that program with our youth funding. So we're excited about that.
Can I interject? I read in somewhere, maybe it was Warren County News or whatever, about I think it was Y Connects in the garden thing. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's
So cool.
Mhm. Yep. And probation continues to do great work with our young people. And I've told everybody many times, and I'll continue to say it until there's no air in my lungs. If we don't invest in young people now, we will pay for it later through criminal justice or social services. Young people are still struggling. There's still residuals from COVID. Mental health, substance use. You've probably seen the challenges in the news and social media with young people in Glens Falls. So there's great trainings that are happening with school districts. Monday and Tuesday next week, I'll be training school resource officers. We have 7 of them learning more about restorative practices. And that's not going to replace anything they're already doing. It's just an additional tool for their toolbox. And as Amy Secor likes to call it, and I'm stealing this term, is genuine accountability. So where young people are learning about how their actions and behaviors impact others in our community. So we're excited that we have 7 SROs coming to that training Monday and Tuesday. I'll be leading that with Council for Prevention and Jason Spector from South High and Catamount Consulting. And we're grateful that we continue to have partnerships with law enforcement and working on getting more programming in the jails as well. And my last update is just to remind everybody, we have our hospitality workforce celebration at Six Flags on September 12th. This is now our 2nd annual event where we are recognizing the workers in retail, hospitality, and tourism in Warren County who really do so much for our community all summer. It is a free event hosted by Six Flags. People just need to register. And we're also doing awards again, and we have great prizes. If you know any businesses that want to contribute a prize, a gift certificate, an overnight stay, etc., please let me know. And everybody's, of course, more than welcome to come and support. We do have a new award this year in honor of Frank Dietrich. So there's a hospitality management award, and develops the criteria with his wife. Those are my primary updates.
John.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say, Spectrum News was out there yesterday at the garden with some of our counselors and some of the youth, and it was pretty impressive. And they're doing a story on that, so we should see that soon. And the only other comment I was going to make is I sent a link out to you to Sarah's report that she did on demographics in the county. If you haven't read that, I encourage everyone to read it on the committee because it's phenomenal. So
Thank you, Supervisor Smith.
Yeah, I'm really happy that the whole garden thing worked out well. We had a committee meeting yesterday with criminal justice. We got some pretty astonishing news from that.
Right.
Frightening news. I would not for me, I'm ex-military, but it was for most people that would just turn your white and pass right out. It was it's talking about this increase in mental problems, increase in family risk problems, and they said they're at the end. They can't do anything more. And so we were all sitting here thinking, well, what can we do internally here to help this? And these are the programs that I think that we would be looking for. Again, the garden was great. All of my friends at OSC down at 1 Broad Street, they want a piece of that. They want to come down here and do some gardening. So I told them,
There's a community garden at Village Green, Rite Aid,
yeah, and
more, I'm sure.
no, and most of them have gardens there. They just want. But so if I don't know where to go with that. I think we're doing some research on that, but if there's any way we can use you guys to help them, I mean, that would be a start, don't you think?
Right. Yeah.
Supervisor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Right. It was astonishing at the criminal justice on the increase in juvenile delinquency over the past couple of years. And then you probably read today in Post Star, the front page there about the delinquency in Glens Falls High is really high. So on this, thinking through at the committee meeting yesterday, it's a community-wide problem and needs to be addressed holistically. It's not just one vector, one department that's going to solve this problem. It's a whole community there. And thank you for stressing the point that it is our youth that we need to set in a good direction, give them what they need to move forward, because we depend on that.
These success stories are great.
Thank you. Well, that's good observations. And again, it was a very interesting discussion yesterday in criminal justice, and it was all pretty much focused on youth. Okay, so thank you, Liza, for your efforts in that regard. It makes a lot of sense. So,
Thank you.
Jim.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to remind everybody, as if you need another reason to engage in trying to support the things that Liza and others are bringing to your attention, every member of our youth community is an economic asset. And those economic assets are very finite and very much in contention. We don't have enough people to meet our existing workforce needs. And every time one of them essentially is unable to step into that role, it is a loss to our future sustainable revenue base, as well as it is to our personal and social environment. And so I just echo the comments and say that there is reasons from every direction for us to invest in whatever's working. And I'm glad to support Liza and her team and others as she does that. I did want to also mention that, we are not, I think most of our office is going to be away during the celebration for Wayne, but Wayne's contributions are significant, and I'm going to send you something, John, just so that we can make sure that we note them at the time. Not only did he do all the things that have already been identified, but that sewer at North Creek would not have happened if not for not only the work he did in the last several years, but the more than 20 years that he invested in that process. And it's a remarkable opportunity to have somebody who has that kind of continuity to help with those kind of things. We've been blessed to have it. He's now watching the energization of housing initiatives at the county level where he once led them. They then ended, and now we are seeing the need to continue them. He's had a remarkable legacy here, and we're glad to have worked with him, and we look forward to working with the next generation of leadership as it develops in the planning department. I did want to mention, we were in Chestertown. The EDC was this past week, and we're going to North Creek in September, holding housing forums that were funded through the ARPA process. And the goal here is for us to bring demographic and market-related information to the community that helps them understand the need for additional housing capacity. It's not to suggest what those answers are, what the solutions are, although I think we can create a process that would lead to that. But our role right now is to try to inform the public as much as we possibly can to make them better participants in whatever is to come next. And I have to say, I was really heartened by the experience in Chestertown. Supervisor Leggett, you did a wonderful job of not only leading off the forum, but creating an environment for people to learn. And I think to a person, everyone walked out of there feeling like that was a worthwhile investment of their time. So thank you for your support on that. I just came from a meeting with Brookfield Energy, and I know you all know that Brookfield Energy is a part of our business community here. I have to tell you that I am continually astounded at the size and scale of Brookfield and their continued growth. Not necessarily locally here, although we have a significant presence of Brookfield operational personnel. But they shared with me today that they just bought Duke Power. Brookfield Energy not only owns the World Trade Center, they own Duke Energy. I mean, Duke Energy is the largest in the Southeast. I've been doing work on my own personal business side with them for more than 10 years, and I'm astounded at the fact that Brookfield is large enough to have done that. Their asset base is now Brookfield's asset base. I really don't think we understand the value of the asset that is sitting in our community. And so I'm going to do some work to try to bring some of that to your attention in a future meeting. One of the things that was clear to me, though, is that they run, depending on how you measure it, between 75 and 100 hydro projects between here and the Canadian border. Those hydro projects are and have been the fundamental foundation for the green energy that has been a product of this state. And I think we should educate ourselves more on those assets, not just because they're here and they have been here for a long time, but because they represent our piece of this enormous Brookfield Energy conglomerate that is operating all of their assets. All of their physical assets are managed, or at least can be managed, from that Queensbury command center. In the fires that were recently in Hawaii, they were engaging with their assets in Hawaii from Queensbury. So we have a big stake in what is one of the absolute largest global players in the energy world. I really want to bring everyone's attention to that because I think there's more that we could do with that relationship. I'm going to share more with you as I get more information from them. Leadership change at ORDA this past week. I don't know if it was noted, but Mike Pratt, who has served ORDA for many, many years, nearly 30 years, is resigning effective in September, and Ashley Walden has now been named the new leader of ORDA. ORDA is not only a big part of our economic community, but perhaps the largest economic entity that we share with many of our Adirondack neighbors. And you will see that there is a deliberate effort on our part to better educate the community that we interact with about ORDA's economic value and role in the community, not only in terms of how many people they hire, but the amount of investment that they bring. They run the largest solar field for any ski or recreation center in the United States. They are a wonderful partner.
And they're buying a new one.
They absolutely are. I'm continually impressed by the work that Mike started and that the ORDA continues.
He gave us $46 million.
So I would feel terrible if we did not acknowledge that to you. Mike Pratt has been a wonderful partner to the EDC and I think to the county over his tenure there. And I look forward to more with Ashley. The EDC is going to have its annual luncheon, which we normally have in the summer, but we put off until the fall this year. The reason we did that is it's the 10-year anniversary of the Jefferson Project. And I wanted to secure John Kelly to be our keynote speaker to provide us an update on that. That has always been something that's been of intense interest. And he has indeed agreed to do that. October 24th at the new carriage house at the Fort William Henry will be the date. We'll formally notify all of you, but I wanted you to be able to know about it now. We're still working on additional speakers, so there may be more that we add to the dais, but I'm very excited about the fact that we'll be able to provide insight not only to the 10 years that have gone by, but hopefully insight to what is going to come next. I think it matches very neatly, Claudia, with the.
I'm available to speak.
Okay, I'll make sure I know that, but. You know, the ideas about fresh water that you raised in the previous committee, I think we will continue to try to demonstrate not only how important that is to our community and our economy, but maybe what are the opportunities that we all see coming next. So the last thing that I wanted to mention is that we're in the process of helping define how economic development is both funded and pointed going forward. And we've begun to have the initial dialogue with the budget process, and any member of this committee that would like to learn more about that, we'd certainly like to share it with you. The point, though, is that economic development is bigger than it used to be. We are no longer simply in the role of trying to either attract or maintain the existing business base. That business base has become more difficult to define. It includes people who move and start a business in their third bedroom. It includes things like what is the value of lake and not only Lake George, but freshwater protection to our future economy. What is the unseen parts of our economy? All of that's requiring us. We spend a lot of time talking about housing, which we didn't necessarily do. We've spent a lot of time over the last several years trying to advance the expansion of broadband, which we have not normally done. And we embrace all these things because they're all going to be required in order for us to develop an economy that works for everyone and is sustainable in the future. But it does require us to continue to evolve as an organization, and we share all of that in this process. So we'd be happy to share any insight that you would like about that person to person. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it.
I'd just like to echo this. When I first came out of this job, I didn't know a lot of people. Jim was one of the first guys I met. Now I go to his office a lot, and I think they see me coming. They're all rushing to lock the door. Here comes that crazy guy with some crazy ideas from Johnsburg. I can't tell. I just want to say that he's right. You're offering a lot of different services, a lot of different insights, not just to the supervisors, but to the people in my community. I've got people that call them up all the time for help. So, if they need resources, I'm all about giving them whatever they need to keep helping us do what we need to do to develop ourselves economically. So
Within reason, of course.
my reason.
In terms certainly of our northern region, our upcountry, who do you call when you have an issue, when you have a new employer coming to town, when you're dealing with kind of complicated issues, whether it's broadband or your recent session in Chestertown. We call our EDC because they can provide a solution and an answer. So it makes sense. Craig.
I'd like to note, to piggyback on another organization that also helps. Brookfield is here with the aid of the Warren Washington County IDA. And I think that might have been one of the factors that got them into Queensbury versus another town somewhere else, is what the IDA was able to offer them as an incentive to be here. So.
Good work. Any further discussion of anyone? Privilege of the floor. Seeing none.
I'll just say that ARPA's next. So for those who can stay, hopefully we'll cover some interesting topics related to these. Motion to adjourn.
Very fine. Motion to adjourn, Supervisor Smith, seconded by Supervisor Leggett.